This is Shoshanah Shear of beahappymom.com and our online store found on Creations from Jerusalem. And if you've watched any of our videos, you'll know that this is the work that I do together with my husband. We're developing an organization that we called Chesed ve'emet. Chesed means kindness and emet is truth. And this video is going to be a little bit of behind the scenes, showing a little bit of a blending of the two, of the kindness and the truth. And let's jump into exactly what all of this is about. And you'll see some exciting, and for me it's exciting and interesting ways in which kindness and truth do combine together. The first concept to keep in mind is the fact that truth is well, first of all, the world is built on acts of loving kindness, and truth is the basis of everything. It's the greatest kindness for us that God gave us the Torah, which has all the wisdom, all the teachings in it that gives us guidelines as to how to live in this world. So there are a number of teachings as to the importance of Torah learning. We find this in our morning blessings when we say at the end of learning about all the different kinds of acts of kindness and the mitzvahs that we can be involved in, and the great reward that waits for us in the world to come, that because the reward is too great for us to even be able to receive it in this world. And at the end of the whole list of blessings, of types of mitzvahs that we mention, the last one is the learning of Torah, which is the greatest of all. In Pirkei Avot, which is one of the sections of the Mishnah, there in chapter 2, we learn about how careful we need to be about performing a mitzvah and running to do any kind of mitzvah, no matter how small it is, because we don't know how great the reward is or the measure of the rewards. In chapter 3, we learn about the importance of Torah learning. In chapter 4, verse 2, we learn about the whole concept that the reward of a mitzvah is another mitzvah, and how the continuation of those mitzvahs takes place. The wording, it comes from Ben Azai, who said that it's important for us to run to perform any mitzvah and to flee from doing a transgression, because the reward of a mitzvah is another mitzvah. Doing one mitzvah brings on another mitzvah. And contrary to that, or the flip side of that, is if you're involved in doing a transgression, something that's against what God wants us to do in this world, then that brings about another transgression and another transgression. And so there's a ripple effect that takes place in either direction. So this little video is hopefully going to illustrate a little bit of the positive aspect of our actions. And we see on the screen, you'll see coming up a video that my husband began. The first capture that I have coming up on the screen is of the start of my husband's YouTube, the top part of my husband's YouTube channel. And you'll see a couple of playlists listed. If we have a look at one specific playlist, all about a very special story that my husband started to describe and to share with the viewers on his YouTube channel and with members of ours on the Chesed ve'emet main website. You can see in the next screen, we show you a little bit more of the fact that starting to get involved with sharing this story. The story begins about sharing who my husband's Sofer teacher was or is, and that's Rabbi Khanin, who's also a professor. We call him Professor. The whole story is a fascinating and a very inspiring one for anybody who makes Aliyah and comes to Israel. It shows the potential of coming from knowing almost nothing about Yiddishkeit to being able to get to a level that he's mastered Hebrew to such an extent that he's in Hebrew we say a boki. He's completely an expert in all aspects of Sofrut, and in teaching, and in the videos that come following on in this playlist are a series of 18 videos which are all given over in Hebrew. So let's have a look at the series of events that took place. Initially, my husband decided to share with the members on his website a little bit more about the story of Rabbi Khanin. And from that, Rabbi Khanin was excited to see my husband's skills in using the computer, in graphic design, in video editing, and so on, in putting this story together. And from there, he got to be able to do some editing and put together some 4 videos that Rabbi Khanin had available and prepared, ready to share. It just needed to put all the pieces together in order for it to be in a format that's able to share online. And those first 4 videos were done in Russian, which is his native language. So before we get into the rest of the series of events that's taken place, let's learn a little bit about who Rabbi Khanin is. Rabbi Khanin was born in Russia. He was a professor of sociology, and some of his background comes through in his teaching of Torah, as you'll see in a little bit. At the age of 30, he found himself not knowing anything about Hebrew, even which direction the Hebrew alphabet is written. And from there, he's grown to develop a fascination and a dedication to the world of Sofrut. And of course, if we're going to be learning Torah on any level, everything begins with the Aleph Bet, with the letters, with the writing of the letters, with the different details of the letters. And so I would say also for anybody who's interested in learning more about Hebrew, starting to learn Hebrew, or if, for example, I come from a background of occupational therapy, and I would say for anybody who's an occupational therapist, this series of videos is going to be also of interest. Firstly, if any occupational therapist is needing to work with somebody who's a Sofer, it's important to know more about their profession in order to help them. And this can come about whether somebody's has a difficulty with their hand, whether they've got perhaps some carpal tunnel difficulty, or whether there's difficulty with their vision, difficulty with positioning. There are a number of aspects of the whole area of the profession of writing, and in this case, specializing into Sofrut, which is a ritual scribe. And so it could be of tremendous value and interest to an occupational therapist. So aside from working with somebody who might be a Torah scribe, a Sofer, that's coming and needing some occupational therapy to work with the hand, to work with their vision, to work with any aspect to do with this craft, any occupational therapist who comes to Israel or is involved in helping somebody with the whole area of writing, we look at all sorts of details of positioning, of letter formation, of spacing of the letters, and so on. I don't need to go into too much more detail if you're an occupational therapist who happens to be watching this video, but you'll see a lot more fascinating information that comes through as to the development and the advancement of the Hebrew alphabet, how there are changes that have taken place over time, over the years, the history and the unfolding of the world, which has had an impact on the letter formation and the alphabet that's used today compared to the original alphabet in Hebrew. All of this is taught through a series of 18 videos, which Rabbi Khanin is doing and making available to the public through my husband's YouTube channel. There are 18 videos in total, and as the series of events has taken place, one of my husband's students has been interested in reading and learning more from these videos of Rabbi Khanin, and he requested that we could be able to put subtitles on in Hebrew and in English as well to enable him to follow these videos. It's a benefit for anybody who's not 100% fluent in Hebrew to be able to have the subtitles. It does give that extra opportunity to make sure that we've understood and heard the wording that Rabbi Khanin is using. one of the reasons as to, or let's have a look at a couple of the challenges that we have in putting the subtitles. Firstly, Hebrew is not my first language, so putting the subtitles is an interesting process. Rabbi Khanin, at certain times, his Russian accent comes through a little bit more strongly, and so one has to listen very, very carefully, which means that I have to listen and re-listen and re-listen, and sometimes slow down the timing of the speech in order to try and catch exactly what wording is used. So that's in obtaining the Hebrew correctly as Rabbi Khanin is giving over his shiur, his lectures. The other thing is that there's terminology that's used that we have to make sure that the reference that he's using, the quote that he's giving from various aspects of the Torah, whether it's from the Gemara, whether it's from other sources from Kallah, for example, Sofer Yetzirah, he refers to quite often, and to make sure that the spelling is correct, that the terminology is written correctly, and everything is absolutely as effective as possible, as accurate as possible. Then we come to, not only do we have to make sure that the text and the spelling is correct, but now we get to the whole challenge of making sure that the timing fits correctly. When we start to insert it in if you have a look at the next clip that comes up, you can see a little bit of the back end of the editing. Now, YouTube makes it possible for us to put up subtitles, which is a great gift that they offer us, but the majority of the languages used all follow from left to right, and so the editing takes place from left to right, and we obviously are using Hebrew, which takes place from right to left. So this has an impact when we're or makes it a little bit of a challenge when we're needing to get the size of the amount of words that are put per each line, per each section that we put the subtitles. The punctuation becomes a challenge, because if there's a full stop or a period, as they say in America, if there's a comma, if there's any kind of punctuation that's at the end of the line, the way that the system is working, it ends up going at the beginning of the line instead of the end of the line, and we have to juggle with the words that we're putting in to make sure that the timing is accurate and to make sure that we don't have too many words. If we're wanting to put some English to translate some of the words that are used, or to make it a little bit easier to understand some of the wording that's used, we've sometimes tried to put in English, and then we have to put shift enter and put the English on the next line, because it lands up coming in the wrong end of the line. And so there are all sorts of challenges involved. The other thing that some people might say to us, there is various programs available nowadays as people are starting to, as the whole technology is advancing, that we're able to start to use programs like Google Docs to be able to transcribe for us a script of a video that's up. It works quite nicely for English, although there's some tweaking that needs to be done. But when we tried doing it with the Hebrew, it was not very effective at all. And so we're having to do it longhand. It's a time-consuming process. We're wanting it to be as accurate as possible, to be able to give our viewers the opportunity to read and to have those subtitles effective and accurate as possible, because that helps with the learning process. And then when we go to, once having put up the Hebrew and we go and look at the English translation, I have done translation as I go concurrently. I'm doing the Hebrew and the English, and then comparing and making sure that the grammar is accurate. There's a lot of terminology that's not quite accurate, or wording that's, the translation is not accurate at all. It's come up with some funny options. I'm up to about 10 minutes from the first video of correcting the translation that's put up. If anybody's wanting to use the English translation, I ask that you bear with us as I correct that English translation. And we're now going on to the second video. So we have one video that has the Hebrew subtitles so far. There are 18 videos in total. And after that, we hope to be able to get to the next 4 videos, which are telling more about an interview done with Rabbi Khanin that tells more of his story. Fascinating story, a lot of interesting people that he's met, a lot of valuable information for anybody who's interested in the world of Torah and in Sofer, in the Hebrew alphabet, in the development of the Hebrew alphabet. There's a lot for everybody to learn, and we hope that adding the subtitles will be of benefit for our viewers, for anybody who's wanting to learn more in this area. And so we're making it now available, adding another dimension, again with a certain aspect of kindness, and that is by adding a membership to my online store. We're having 1% of anybody who becomes a member, 1% going to help us with this particular project of putting subtitles to those 18 videos and then the 4 videos, and we'll see where it goes to from there. But that's a little bit of the story of the unfolding of events that's taking place. It gives a little bit of insight to how one mitzvah leads to another mitzvah, leads to some other goodness taking place in the world. And now we're combining the chesed ve'emet, the Torah and the kindness, by allowing you to be able, both doing the kindness, putting the subtitles on to make your learning easier, and enabling you to become a partner with us in helping us to be able to do the finishing touches on these videos. The video editing was done. Now we're putting up subtitles. And once that project's completed, we'll see what the next step is. So thank you for joining us in this process. I hope that we've shared some interesting information for you, and I hope you'll join us in this process. If you have any questions or comments, do put a comment in the comments below. Remember to sign up to my husband's channel. There's lots of interesting Torah that you can learn from there. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do press that like button. It helps other people to find our videos, and for YouTube to know that there's some benefit to some of the videos on this channel too. It's Shoshanah Shear from Be a Happy Mom, which is the women's division of Chesed Ve'emet, and our online store. Of course, purchasing any of the items in our online store helps us also with the events and activities that we're involved in. And with that, I say, I wish you a very good month of Kislev, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. Ciao for now, and have a very blessed day.